So whether you're a fan of Booker's or not, or it's your favorite thing, I think I found a bottle that's gonna work for both parties. So we're talking today Booker's, the Reserves 2024. Let's talk a little bit about that today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. We're going old school look. All right, guys, so welcome back. So like I said, we're going back to an old school look, something I used to use a while ago. These are gonna be kind of easy, simpler reviews. But again, we're talking today the newest release from Booker's, which is the Booker's the Reserve 2024. So I said on the intro that I think this is a bottle one way or another that's gonna really work for both parties. Whether you are not a fan of Booker's or what they've done in the past, or are kind of like a Booker's fanboy, either way, I think this release is going to work for both people in this instance. So we're gonna kind of dive into it, and I'll give you a little idea of what this bottle is kind of made up of. In my opinion, I think they've done a really, really nice job with what they've included within this release. So a little bit about Booker's the Reserves 2024. So again, this is gonna come from 8 different rickhouses, all gonna be different ages, anywhere, and again, here's the little card that they sent or was included within the box, anywhere from 8 years, 2 months, 12 days, all the way up to 14 years, 4 months, 16 days. And again, this is from 8 different rickhouses, again, all different ages. So needless to say, this was probably a labor of love for Freddie No to go through and establish all the different profiles of each one of these to then ultimately blend them into the Reserves 2024 batch. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kind of dive into this here, and we'll give you a little idea of what the Reserves 2024 has to offer. So as you guys can see, I mean, this is a beautiful kind of medium mahogany, moving the whiskey around in the glass like I like to do, showing some pretty decent oils on the glass so far, so love to see that. Again, typical of Booker's, non-chill filtered, all of that. Again, great ages on this one. The nice part about this Booker's is this seems to be trending with their higher ages of bourbon that they're then blending within this batch. So one of the things with Booker's for me a while back was just the fact that they were a little bit on the younger side and always drank really more ethanol forward, a little bit hotter, and it wasn't something that I really enjoyed that much. I kind of got off the Booker's train from that standpoint, so we're gonna dive back into that a little bit today and kind of see what this one has to offer. So let's go and dive into the nose and see what this one has to offer. So right away, I'm getting this really nice hint of like a peanut brittle, like a peanut butter, something along those lines. Or like maybe even a peanut butter pie. There's a little bit of that kind of rich kind of pie crust feel to it. Not the typical like heavy peanut shell kind of note you'll get from Booker's often. Maybe even a little hint of like a pecan pie. Nice kind of vanilla custard. There's also a bit of this when you start dealing with kind of heavy brown sugars, molasses. That starts to feel a little bit where you're getting into those rum categories. And maybe that's there, but I'm picking up on that a little bit. It's a little hint of that kind of rum characteristic. Again, beautiful brown sugars, that molasses. The oak that's there feels just right. I think there's a little hint of that kind of dusty or even rickhouse oak that's there that is allowing for it to be in the forefront, but not be like overly oak dominant. Yeah, so far I'm gonna say it's a very inviting nose. Like it makes you want to almost salivate and you can't wait to kind of taste this thing. So without further ado, let's kind of dive into the palate and see what this one's gonna give us. Cheers. So let's address the mouthfeel right away. It's very creamy, viscous. There's almost this kind of velvety type of texture to it. So far, the mouthfeel, the texture of this whiskey is kind of spot on. Yeah, so as we dive into the palate a little bit more, like I was getting on the nose, there's much of that kind of peanut butter pie feel to this. Really nice oak. Little more oak driven on the palate than I was maybe picking up on the nose. But again, more of that kind of peanut butter pie feel on this one. Yeah, I'll say the barrel influence, actual barrel char notes do kind of show up, and they're balancing out with that kind of peanut butter pie kind of feel on this one. So far, I think those two are working really, really well together. Yeah, here comes some of those, again, the rich brown sugars, that molasses, kind of combined again a little bit with that peanut butter pie, a little bit more of that oak. There's a little hint of a drying kind of characteristic to it. And I'm gonna say that probably feels, along with the dryness, getting into that kind of leather tobacco. Again, you do have some older whiskeys within this blend. So typically you're gonna get some of that kind of feel to it. And Beam is kind of known a little bit for that. It almost gets to the point where it's slightly tannic, but was probably blended really well to allow for more of that sweetness with that peanut butter pie to kind of blend really well along with that oak, the brown sugars, the molasses. Again, there's that little hint or that feel of a rum characteristic for me on the palate as well. You do kind of pick up on some of the, like the vanilla custards. Again, I'll say a little bit of that. You know, I keep saying peanut butter pie because it's very much there. A little bit more drying oak, leather, tobacco. I'm even gonna say there's little hints of this kind of graham cracker, and I don't want to quite say that it's like graham cracker and marshmallow. I'm not getting that kind of sweetness. You do get a little bit of that vanilla custard, but not much like marshmallow. You're getting that kind of s'mores effect, but with more of that kind of baker's chocolate, a little bit of graham cracker, that vanilla custard. Again, not marshmallowy, anything along those lines. More of that kind of rickhouse oak, a deeper, darker oak kind of component to it. Again, still those leathers, tobaccos, the brown sugars, the molasses, the peanut butter pie. So all of these, in my opinion, have been blended extremely well. I think the finish part of it, if you kind of start to, you know, get into that part of it, feels maybe on that medium long side of things. What I'll say and why this feels like a bourbon, specifically a Booker's bourbon, why or how this will appeal to most people is I think it feels like an off-profile Booker's, where you're getting more of those elevated ages of those bourbons within this blend, that it doesn't come across quite as maybe ethanol driven with some of the younger bourbons that were in some of the prior Booker's batches. So for me, that's why this may be, if not the best, one of the better Bookers that have been released. And again, at around that $125 price point, 8 years, 2 months, 12 days, technically as the age statement, as the minimum age. But again, bourbons upwards of 14 years within this blend. In my opinion, they've done a really fantastic job of making this a bourbon that I think is going to appeal to an awful lot of people. So if you were always on the fence with Booker's or somehow got turned off to it, I would say give this one a try. And again, with those ages at whatever, $125, $130, I think this feels probably priced appropriately. I have no problem with the price, and especially for what it is that you're getting. I think they've kind of nailed this one the most. It feels like a really, really nice, well-blended Booker's, and one that I would probably suggest or recommend to a lot of people. If they were on the fence with Booker's and you were able to get this, I would say buy it. Again, I feel that this is a slightly off-profile type of Booker's and that kind of feel to it that I think it's going to, again, appeal to an awful lot of people. So more importantly, let me know your thoughts. If you've had a chance to try this one already, you know, do you feel that this is a Booker's that will appeal to, I'll say, the masses, to most people? And in my opinion, it is. I think it just feels like a really nice, well-aged Booker's or bourbon that just, again, is going to work for an awful lot of people. So I'll be more interested to hear back from you guys as to what your thoughts are. Is this kind of one of those releases that feels priced appropriately? You know, the release is gonna, you know, be kind of a limited edition. I think they're gonna do this yearly. But you know, overall, I think they've done a really, really nice job with this. The more I've kind of talked on the finish part of it, a little bit more of that kind of dark chocolate or baker's chocolate have kind of come out in this thing a little bit. More again in that graham cracker. But overall, I'm going to say this is one of the better Bookers. I don't want to say necessarily the best because I've not had all of them, but I'm going to say this is really a fantastic Bookers and a great representation of, I think, what they can truly do. And if most people get their hands on this bottle, one way or another, I think this may bring people back to the Bookers line itself. So anyway, enough from me. I want to hear from you guys, you know, where I'm kind of describing these, what your thoughts were on the latest release of Bookers, the Reserves 2024. So thanks guys for being here today. Greatly appreciate you tuning in. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook and Instagram, both of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to support the channel and become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, make sure you check out the links in the description below. A lot of great things also down there for you as well. So again, thanks guys for tuning in today. And as always, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.
Slow it down. Wait.